Everybody has a right to vote, but the right to vote is not important. How many of you never boarded a Kamba bus in your life? If Raila Odinga told you tomorrow it will rain, you should actually buy an umbrella. How comes big brand collapse? The hustler who promised people heaven, but he has been delivering shakahola. Be, do, then say. Big brands also fall. You need it, we've got it. This is after the first episode. The first episode was how to build a brand in politics, just as it is important to build a brand in corporate, where we told you that there is no big brand with no money behind it. Remember, Apple is $617 billion worth of brand, and that's why people buy Apple everywhere. Coca-Cola is a big brand, Toyota is a big brand, name it, IBM, Microsoft, and the rest. So to build a big brand in corporate, you make more money. Just like if you build a big brand in politics, you are able to attract more votes. Call it Kibaki, call it Moi, call it Uhuru Kenyatta, and Raila Odinga. They are built big brands. Even Ruto at one point built one brand. In spite of the fact that people build big brands, how comes big brands fail? This example is clear in the corporate world. It is also clear in politics. You've seen big brands in the corporate that have actually collapsed. For example, if you look at corporate world, corporate Kenya, there was a time very big brands in the corporate Kenya, for example, Titus Naikuni, who was the CEO of Tata Chemicals, became the CEO of KQ, once was well taken, was well branded. Where is he now? Where is he? He is almost a shadow of himself. You come to Chris Kirubi. Chris Kirubi was a very big brand. But when he went to become the CEO of, actually the executive chairman of Uchumi collapsed in his hand. The same person, you can see what happened to Uchumi. Uchumi collapsed in hands, and therefore it means that big brands also fall. We talk about Evans Kidero, who was one time the CEO of Mumia Sugar Company and the chairman of Kenya Sugar Board. He became a governor of Nairobi. What happened? He's actually struggling. He was actually last time being appointed by Ruto to become CAS, which he didn't succeed. Now he's just a politician at large. We also have seen Shirali Hassanali, who was actually the CEO of Akamba Bus. How big was Akamba Bus? How many of you never boarded Akamba Bus in your life? I remember it will come from Mombasa, Nairobi, Kisumu, everywhere. How come now we talk about The Guardian, we can talk about Easy Coach? What happened to Akamba Bus that carried for people money, carried for people letters, transported people to get married, some people to pay dowry? It did every work that you can ever imagine. Where are they? So you find that this is an issue. But also, if you go after this country, we had the founding 500 fortune firms in the world, where some of them were Coca-Cola, GE, IBM, Microsoft. Do you know that the first Fortune 500 firms, only 6 are alive. The rest of them, 494 died. What happens? There are no more. How comes big brand collapse? So you can imagine that this happens. Go to Mugo Kibati, who was the CEO of East African Cables. He was a big brand. Where is he? He struggled here at Telcom Kenya, and he's a shadow of himself at the moment. What happens? You talk about the former KWS CEO. You know that guy's name. He was known for transforming KWS. How comes Uchumi died in his hand? So we have seen many big captains of the industry come and go, big corporates come and go. But if you go and look again, in parallel, you talk about politics. Have you never seen big names in politics collapse? Remember the so-called Babayao? He was a very big brand at some point. Who is Babayao anymore? No more. But also we have big brands like Raila Odinga, who was a very big brand in politics of Kenya. If Raila said A, everything will A. Someone says, if Raila told you that tomorrow is a holiday, just prepare to rest at home. If Raila Odinga told you tomorrow it will rain, you should actually buy an umbrella. Can you imagine towards the end of his career, people used to even call him names? Who would call Raila names before William Ruto became president? and he had a handshake with him, nobody will ever even dare call Raila's name. I remember as someone who comes from Nyanza, if you would go to Kondele, if you look left and said Baba, everybody will look at you. If you say anything negative, you leave dead. If you say something positive, everyone will praise you. That's how powerful it is. Remember, Gen Z's put Raila in a coffin before he died. Can you imagine that ever happened? So big brands can also fall, but also come to people like Gachagua. Gachagua built a brand. He became deputy president. He was actually trying even to say he can counter Raila Odinga. All of a sudden, he was impeached by Uhuru Ruto. Then eventually, you see Gachagua again rose again, very highly being respected. Then realized the brand again is fighting some heat in Mount Kenya. People say, oh, so one term? Okay, it's one term. Then what? So you realize that big brands can grow, but also they can fall. Look at William Ruto, the hustler who promised people heaven. He told the hustler, you can ride a motorcycle to convert a motorcycle to a tuk-tuk, for a tuk-tuk to become a matatu to buy a bus, then you buy an aeroplane. Now, how many hustlers have aeroplanes? But people believed in him. He became a big brand, he became president. Now, everywhere is one term. Last time we checked, the popularity shows that 86% of Kenyans do not want William Ruto to go back. So then the question is, why do these big brands fall? And I can tell you from my research, because I've written a book here called Strategic Thinking, Dynamics of Political Strategies in Africa. This book, anybody should read if you want to have a career in politics. In this book, the best quote I've dedicated to this book is that everybody has a right to vote, but the right to vote is not important. The right to have a dignified life is why people vote. So voting for a big brand that cannot offer you the dignified life they promised you is useless. And that's the main reason why brands collapse. You've seen people who never live to the expectation of their brand. For example, if you buy Omo, then you hear this Omo with Perform, you realize that Omo with Perform should wash clothes better than Omo only. Then there's what you call Omo with Perform Plus. Now, Omo with Perform Plus should even do better than Omo with Perform. Then there's Omo with a Perform Plus Plus. Now that should make your clothes look like you're actually as white as cotton. Now, if those Perform Plus and Plus cannot deliver, then people stop buying Omo. It's as simple as such. So today I want to give you 3 factors that normally make big brands to fall. The first one is loss of trust of the people. Once you promise people heaven and you delivered hell, like William Ruto is trying to promise people Singapore, but he has been delivering Shakahola. Now that is how big brands fall. When you promise people liberation, ukombozi inakuja, you will be like, Kenya will be like heaven. Then Kenya start looking like hell, big brands fall. The same way, the big companies I've mentioned, when Ochumi said that home of value, you hear now promises. Nakumatt said, you need it, we've got it. Now all of a sudden you go to the supermarket in Nakumatt, you find nothing. So you go to, now they say, for example, Tuskys. Tuskys was once a very big brand. Now, where is it? So what I'm trying to say, if you can promise something, deliver it. Just like, for example, if you go to some pizza company, they say, we shall give you your pizza 10 minutes after you order. More than 10 minutes, we give you pizza for free. Now, look at it. If they promise you that they don't give you pizza in 10 minutes, after 10 minutes, they don't give you pizza for free. Will you continue believing their promises? No way. So a promise kept is what makes the brand become strong. Consistency in keeping people's trust upon you is important. The second thing is politically or even corporate, controversial things that are done in corporate. Remember, there's a time when Coca-Cola almost collapsed. When Coca-Cola discovered that Pepsi was giving a run for their money, then Coca-Cola made Coke more tasty and sweeter to compete with Pepsi in sweetness. People did not follow Coke because it was sweet. People followed Coke because of the unique taste in the mouth. So immediately Coke discovered that Pepsi was beating them because they changed the taste of Coke. They went back to the old Coke. We call it the classic Coke. And that's why Coke went back. So controversies, companies can do certain things that can make them collapse. For example, remember Safaricom was being accused that he's being involved in tracking Gen Zs who are now doing social media blogging against the government. When that thing came out, Safaricom had to do a clarification that no, not us. We can't do it, never us. Whether it's true or not, I can tell you, Any brand being involved in controversy can always bring it down, just like in politics. You've seen some politicians that used to be very good, then they're involved in a serious controversy. Remember the other time when Mutahi Kahiga came and celebrated the death of Raila Odinga. I'm sure you know what happened. People told him off. In fact, I guess, if people Nyeri are clear, they should send him home. Remember during the Gen Zs, some of the people spoke badly. Like said, there's a Farah Malim who said if he was president, he could have killed all Gen Zs. Tell me where Farah Malim will be elected again. So that's how big brands fall, by being controversial. I'm saying this with a lot of caution, that when Raila Odinga went and handshake William Ruto and started supporting Ruto, his brand had hitting. But fortunately for Raila had a lot of social capital that when he died, everybody stormed and mourned him. They mourned him for the big brand he built over the years for consistency. Had he not been a long-term brand built over the decades with a lot of consistency on democracy, I'm telling you, it could have taken a hit. Then lastly, there's something called political miscalculation. And I want to dedicate this to a few politicians. For example, Charity Ngilu. Charity Ngilu is a brand that rose because every time she made the right calculation, and she was always in government. She made the right calculation, she was in Kibaki's government. She made the right calculation, she was in Uhuru's government. But she made a wrong calculation and missed being in Ruto's government because she supported Raila. Tell me where she is. She is just a shadow of herself. And you know very well how many people have made wrong political calculations. You've seen some people trying to run for governor when they were just supposed to be an MP. Some people try to become senators when they could have just become an MP. And some people dropped being a senator and went for governor and lost that governor seat. And they remained in political darkness and political oblivion. What I'm trying to say in short, to become a big brand in politics and to sustain your brand consistency is very important. What is important is that the same value proposition that you promise people that you'll deliver, keep it. And when you keep it, it will stay. So I'll give you this continuum. In a brand, there are some continuum. Be, do, then say. Meaning, if you are Fred Ogola, be Fred Ogola. Do you. Do things that resonates with the brand Fred Ogola. Then say, I am Fred Ogola, I'm an honest person. Or Fred Ogola, I stand for economic liberation. Or I'm Fred Ogola, I stand for rule of law. But you cannot say things you can't do, then you can't do things that you are not. Because that pretense brings brand inconsistency. And that's where you make political calculations, and that's when actually you do not live to the expectations of the people who are your fans and followers. And I hope that you have seen some brands, for example, Martha Karao, for example, she's been known as Iron Fist, Iron Lady. Iron Lady has been to her because she has always had very strong stands on certain things. Like she said, she told Raila, I'm your running mate, but I don't agree with you on this and that. Can you imagine that? Very few people said before they elected running mate. Martha Karua was able to keep her stand when she was in Kibaki's government. And she has been known as a woman who is no nonsense. She went all the way to Uganda during Museveni when this guy was arrested. I'm sure you know what is his name. The opposition ruler Besigye, Kizza Besigye, she was she even went to Tanzania when Tundu Lissu was having a case. She has always been known as a woman who believes on the rule of law, and that brand is very consistent. No one can fault her. In fact, some women see her of more of someone who has got a muscular beliefs than actually feminine beliefs. But I can tell you, like a woman, it does not mean that she is strong like a stone. She just believes that her values are stronger than steel. And that's why she's called an iron woman. And that's the brand that needs to be consistent. Therefore, my dear politicians and corporate leaders, do not promise what you can deliver. A man or a woman is as good as they can keep their promise. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless Kenya.